All right. Restart. Sorry about that, guys. I apologize. I don't know why my sound was muted on my streaming app. It's total random thing. But anyways, come back in. Everybody, come on back. Sorry about that. False start. I was enjoying the early chat though, and I was talking about that while everybody was watching my mouth move, but no sound come out. Anyways, welcome back to Black Bear News, where everything is connected. Um, yeah, the early chat was full of talk about assisted suicide, which I totally believe in, and I totally agree that, I think that suicide should not be illegal, should not be a crime. Assisted suicide should be legal, along with sex work, and there are things that are illegal that are ridiculous. Um, but somebody was mentioning that I think it was the Netherlands saying that assisted suicide is legal. Anyways, if you want to take yourself out, you're going to take yourself out. So why not? If you're really determined to, why not get some help with it? Anyways, Rich Diana. Who knows when that fateful day will come? I'm kidding. I don't know. Maybe they don't care, but YouTube seems to care about what I'm saying because the the things they're doing to my channel are kind of funny. But anyways, enough of that subject. But welcome back. Thank you all for coming back in. Sorry about the false start. I apologize. Y'all can hear me, I assume. Um, so no representation. Just add drugs and rock and roll, and we're ready to go. Turn on, tune in, and drop out, y'all. Osama number 5. I don't need any assistance. Thank you. No, YT didn't get me. Whatever reason, I don't know. The sound wasn't on. It was just a goof. Anyways, let's get into some stories. Kuro Hike says, if you do not have the right to die, then you do not have the right to live. You're simply property. Good point. Excellent point. Oh, and on that note, Kuro sent me something. This is some pretty cool artwork. Where are we? He made up some COVID 1984 artwork. Hope you all like that. It's pretty cool. This is a good touch here. Let's move on to a story. A medical examiner has died from coronavirus after catching it from a dead body in what is believed to be the first case of its kind. This, we're entering like plague scenario here. Pretty wild. I'm not going to read the article, but I just wanted to read the headline for you. I don't know what that means. I mean, certainly it's scary. This can only help to ratchet up the panic around catching it. But this is mainly having to do with people who are in close contact with those that are sick. So, yeah, this is the scary news here. I don't know what this. I guess you got to be careful handling people who have died from coronavirus because you don't want to get it that way. But so if you live in a South American country and there's a COVID fatality laying in the street, no, just give it plenty of room. We're not that at that stage yet in the States, in the United States. Hopefully we don't get there. Let's move on. Basil Peterson, don't bring out your dead. Somebody linked that clip in the comments the other day. I had to watch it, and it's always funny. Bobby Davis, good point. Well, he didn't get it by the man breathing, did he? No. But he was in contact. He was touching something that had the virus. Undertaker should always have PPE. Sure. No need to panic. Just get educated. Natural progressive. Yep. Yes. Be aware. Be careful. Protect yourself. Don't get other people sick because maybe you don't think that you're going to get sick. Daniel V. Scientific America says current methane levels in the atmosphere is at an all-time high. The methane bomb is here. So, that's something that is not really given a lot of daylight in the ongoing talk about climate change. Yes, methane levels have been rising, especially over the last 3 to 4 years. They are at record levels, over 2,000 parts per billion. When, what was the normal? At one time it was like 300 or 400 parts per billion or something like that. Or maybe it was 800. Sorry if I'm wrong on that. But now we're up over 2,000 parts per billion and sometimes higher. God dang it. Now my stream is getting all funky again. Sorry, guys. Hopefully I don't get a lot of buffs in here. Anyways, yeah, that is a story that people should be talking about. And, concerning because, what does a record amount of methane in the atmosphere do for us? Well, it gives us very quick heating capabilities. Rolf Jander, record CO2 level a few days ago. Right, we're up higher than that, but methane, nothing heats like methane. And if I sounded like an ad, it comes on in between the nightly news and some comedian interviewing people, nicely interviewing people on late night TV. You might see a commercial for methane. Nothing heats like methane. Indeed, nothing does heat like methane. So let's get into this news from the Arctic news. This is from yesterday. And I can let you guys see what I'm reading. Arctic hit by 10 tipping points. Tipping points are abrupt climate changes that typically occur as self-reinforcing feedback loops start to kick in. We already know that. So let's just get into the tipping points. Oops, sorry guys. We're back. El Nino. March 2020 NASA Lodi anomaly versus 1951-1980. Above image shows very high anomalies over Russia and over the ESAS, the East Siberian Arctic Shelf. Where are all those methane clotting rates at? Well, they would be up here. High sea surface temperature anomalies. Look at that anomaly, though. This is for March 2020. High sea surface temperature anomalies along the path of the Gulf Stream. Global warming is a catastrophic development, and El Nino is global warming on steroids. As the Atlantic Ocean heats up along the path of the Gulf Stream, huge amounts of hot water get carried toward the Arctic Ocean, as illustrated by the above image. Current conditions still are El Nino neutral. Since the temperature rise is amplified in the Arctic, a strong El Nino later in 2020 can hit the Arctic particularly hard, which can act as a catalyst. It triggers further tipping points to get crossed. As also discussed in an earlier post, this can in turn cause a steep global temperature rise, as illustrated by the image on the right. Here's this trend line here that we're already on. We're already on this trend line. Here we are. The image below shows that on the northern hemisphere, the March sea surface temperature anomaly for 2020 was higher than previous years. So we had lower land air surface temperatures, but higher sea surface temperature. 2, latent heat, loss of buffer. Sea ice hanging meters below the surface has until now consumed huge amounts of ocean heat, moving into the Arctic Ocean in spring on the northern hemisphere. As a result, there has been a huge reduction in Arctic sea ice volume over the years. Moreover, Arctic sea ice is getting very thin. The image below shows the sea ice thickness in meters comparison between February 28th, 2015 and February 28th, 2020. So we'll get in here a little more. Sea ice thickness. You can see this is very thick ice. 2015. Almost gone. Almost gone. Almost non-existent. Ice above 2 or 2.5 meters thick. Almost gone. Almost non-existent. And all of this is just, slush. This is just slushy ice. This is not even, possibly 1 meter thick. If even that. So all of this stuff here doesn't count. We're just looking at this area here, which is all that we're left with that's holding us back from even more rapid heating. Ocean heat is on the rise, particularly on the northern hemisphere as the sea ice is getting thinner. There now is little or no buffer left to consume the influx of ever warmer and salty water from the Atlantic Ocean and Pacific Ocean, as illustrated by the image below. There is a tipping point at 1C above the 20th century average, i.e. there are indications that a rise of 1C will result in most of the sea ice underneath the surface is to disappear. Global heat content. Here we go. I love the Arctic News giving us all the graphs. They're always very, very good with the graphs. As long as there is sea ice in the water, the sea ice will keep absorbing heat as it melts, so the temperature will not rise at the sea surface. But there is ever less sea ice volume left to absorb ocean heat, and the amount of energy absorbed by melting ice is as much as it takes to heat an equivalent mass of water from 0 to 80 C. Latent heat of fusion. Once all ice has turned into water, all subsequent heat that goes into heating up the water will do so at 4.18 joules for every 1 C. The temperature of the water rises. Meanwhile, temperatures keep rising globally, and more than 90% of global warming is going into the oceans. 3, loss of sea ice albedo. I'm going to have to speed this up because we got 10 of these. Disappearance of the sea ice goes hand in hand with albedo changes. That means that a lot more sunlight will be absorbed by the Arctic Ocean instead of getting reflected back into space as occurred previously. The annual fall in Arctic sea ice is strongly influenced by weather conditions over the Arctic Ocean, as well as weather conditions over Russia and North America, as discussed in the next point. So we'll look at this. Where are we? Arctic sea ice extent. Here we are. Almost as low as it gets. Previous record, I think, was 2012 on this date. Oh, second only after 2019. Uh, so here's, albedo. If we have albedo, no albedo, all that heat going into the ocean. 4, loss of terrestrial permafrost. Rising heat threatens to have a strong impact across the Arctic. One of the tipping points is abrupt thawing of terrestrial permafrost, resulting in loss of albedo, increased flow of hot water into the Arctic Ocean, and mobilization of large amounts of greenhouse gases. Rutgers University image on the right shows a strong reduction in Eurasian snow cover in March 2020. Here we go. The albedo changes due to decline of terrestrial permafrost are likely similar in size compared to the changes taking place over the sea ice. Furthermore, as the albedo feedback speeds up demise of the permafrost, huge amounts of warm water flow into the ocean, Arctic Ocean from rivers and groundwater in Russia and North America, also mobilizing large amounts of carbon and nitrogen, as a recent study indicates. Emissions across 2.4 million square kilometers of abrupt thaw could provide a similar climate feedback as gradual thaw emissions from the entire 18 million square kilometer permafrost region under the warming projection of representative concentration pathway 8.5. 5, jet stream changes. Above image shows a forecast showing instantaneous wind power density at 250 HPA. This jet stream is crossing the Arctic Ocean, and 3 omega shapes show up that go hand in hand with warm air entering the Arctic closer to the surface. More temperature anomalies. This can lead to strong extremes in temperature. Above image shows a forecast for April 21, 2020. Cold weather over North America and high temperatures over East Siberian Arctic Shelf. The high temperatures in Russia, Greenland, and parts of North America, such as Alaska, result in ever more fresh water entering the Arctic Ocean. Fresh water has a very low alkalinity or buffering capacity, which reduces the ability of the Arctic Ocean to take up carbon dioxide, a recently published study finds. Loss of carbon sinks. While the COVID-19 lockdowns have caused emissions to come down, especially emissions associated with transport and industry, greenhouse gas levels still appear to be rising at accelerating pace. Just talking about this. Here we are up at 418 or 417, I think was the high the other day. Almost 418 above image illustrates the relentless rise in daily average carbon dioxide isn't slowing down. The rise actually appears to be accelerating. The annual peak in carbon dioxide is typically reached in May, so the recent rise can be expected to continue for some time. Well, we've already, we've triggered so many feedbacks. A little loss in emissions is not going to slow or stop anything, right away, for sure. More extreme weather is causing stronger droughts, heat waves, and forest fires. This threatens to destroy farmland as well as forests that were carbon sinks until now. The boreal forests in Siberia, North America, and the tundra within the Arctic Circle are particularly vulnerable, but also under threat are the peat fields and forests in Africa and Southeast Asia and South America. Forest fires in Australia earlier this year will have contributed to higher carbon dioxide levels. Extreme weather events over the permafrost could have contributed in several ways, as discussed in an earlier post. Hold on, let me make sure something's happening. Maybe nothing is happening. I don't know. Rich Diana, Kevin Show, Karanis chart where we gain 10 degrees by 2021. Mind-blowing. Yes, CO2 will rise. Exactly. Okay, so everything's still going. We're going to continue with this article. Important is also what happens in oceans. A recent study finds that one particular layer in North Atlantic Ocean, a water mass called the North Atlantic subtropical mode water, is very efficient in drawing carbon dioxide out of the atmosphere. Ocean warming is restricting its formation and changing the anatomy of the North Atlantic, making it a less efficient sink for heat and carbon dioxide. Excuse me. Indeed, more carbon may already get released from oceans than they can take up from the atmosphere. That is where we are at the moment. The Arctic is a pivoting role in this. Has. 7. Seafloor methane. The dreaded cloth rates. The image below shows the rise in methane levels in Barrow, Alaska. Methane grew by 11.54 parts per billion in 2019. Globally, NOAA reports a growth in methane levels of 11.54 parts per billion in 2019, the highest growth rate in the past few years. So here's where we are. But, you know, it fluctuates depending on where you are on the planet. I'd say this is, you know, the average or the mean, whatever you want, of where we are in the parts per billion. We're in the 1800 range, but in some places, you know, it's often, the readings are often above 2000. A doubling of methane over the next decade would have more warming impact globally than doubling of carbon dioxide levels. These are marine surface data. The largest rise in methane has actually taken place at higher altitudes. Indeed, the image below shows high methane levels over the Arctic as well as over Antarctica, with methane levels recorded as high as 2,755 parts per billion. That is wild, almost 3,000. One explanation for the high levels of methane over Antarctica is that wild pressure and temperature swings are causing cracks to widen and release methane. While freshwater generally is increasing due to increased melting, the Arctic Ocean can occasionally experience a huge influx of warm, salty water from the Atlantic Ocean. Changes to the jet stream make the stronger winds push warm water along the path of the Gulf Stream toward the Arctic Ocean. Such an influx of warm, salty water could cause another tipping point to get crossed. 8. Nitrous oxide and ozone layer decline. We keep, I keep seeing, you know, articles or studies are like, oh, the ozone hole is healing. We're on our way to having our ozone layer back. No. That is actually not happening. The image below shows levels of nitrous oxide as high as 354 parts per billion on April 6, 2020, with very high levels over Antarctica. One explanation for the high levels of nitrous oxide could evolve around the presence of some very cold areas at the poles. Again, more extreme weather events, including wild temperature and pressure swings, could be behind this. Similarly, this could be behind ozone depletion in the stratosphere. The Arctic is particularly vulnerable to a rapid temperature rise. Greenhouse gas levels are already very high over the Arctic. At the same time, hydroxyl levels are low over the Arctic, increasing lifetime of methane over the Arctic. Furthermore, changes in aerosols can have a strong impact on Arctic temperatures. Black carbon settling on snow and ice hits the Arctic hard, speeding up warming. 9. Falling away of the aerosol masking effect. Oh, getting into some juicy stuff here. Hold on. Checking how everything is going. Okay, everything is going. Let's get back to it. According to the IPCC AR5, dust has a direct impact of minus 0.1, I don't know what that is, W over meter squared, I'm not sure. While additionally contributing to aerosol cloud interactions. Anybody give me a heads up on what that is? Above, image shows that light at 550 nm as a measurement of aerosol optical thickness due to dust aerosols was as high as 8.9534 on March 28th, 2020. The image also shows that quite a lot of dust ends up over the Arctic. Globally, sulfate has an even larger impact. As a result of the COVID-19 lockdowns, traffic in large parts of industrial activity have ground to a halt worldwide. The impact of shipping alone is huge, as discussed in a recent post. Nonetheless, sulfate levels can still be high, as illustrated by above image, which uh, is here. Light at 550 nm as a measure of aerosol optical thickness due to sulfate aerosols. According to the IPCC AR5 image on the right, the direct cooling impact of sulfate aerosols is as much as 0.62. Is that watts over? I don't know. I'm not sure. Additionally, sulfate aerosols strongly contribute to the impact of aerosol cloud interactions, estimated in AR5 to provide as much as minus 1.2 W over M2 cooling. Taken together, the two add up to as much as minus 1.82. So it's a lot of cooling. As said, sulfate currently has a strong cooling impact on the Arctic, as much as above image shows. Reductions in the aerosol masking effect could make temperatures in the Arctic and globally rise abruptly and dramatically. Steep rise in temperature is in line with unfolding developments that are causing the aerosol masking effect to fall away, such as a decrease in industrial activity due to COVID-19 fears. The danger is illustrated by the image below. The image shows a potential rise of 18 C, or 32.4 Fahrenheit, by the year 2026. Here we are here. Here we are here. Above image was posted more than a year ago and illustrates that much of this potentially huge temperature rise over the next few years could eventuate as a result of reduction in the cooling now provided by sulfate. In other words, steep temperature rise could result from a decline in industrial activity that is caused by fears about the spread of a contagious virus, as also discussed in the video at an earlier post. Further tipping points, number 10. Changes to the monsoon in India, rapid melting of snow and ice covering the Himalayas, heat waves and mass starvation exacerbated by worldwide crop failure and by collapse of the Antarctic and Greenland ice sheets, which could cause flooding of coastal areas around the globe. The emissions that come with such further tipping points will hit the Arctic particularly hard, given the amplification of the global temperature rise in the Arctic. There you go. A lot of reasons to expect, again, continued heating and possible rapid heating this year. If not this year, then maybe next year. D-Truth says, still putting stripes in the skies here in the UK. Interesting. Basil Peterson, watt on first, ohm on second, and amp on third. Thank you. Watts per meter or negative cool. Got it. Yeah, that's what I kind of guessed. I guessed correctly. I was just didn't want to stick my foot in it too hard. But yeah. Ecocentric Homestead says, I don't think the abrupt temperature rise is correct. Reducing the aerosol effect will change the rate of warming, not make a sudden jump. I mean, possible. We don't know. We don't know yet what the actual effect of the loss of aerosol will have. Keith Hayes, the numbers are not there for that big a change, but that was a nice graph. Again, we don't know. We don't know what the actual effect will be on the loss of aerosols. We don't know. So, watts per mole? Okay. All right, guys. You're funny, all of you. Yeah, latent heat, David Cardell. One of the most important things to understand is sentient life form on the planet. It overlaps into very much about life and everything. If you learn one thing in science, that wins. Yes. And if you've ever a graph of the heat that is now currently being stored in the oceans, that's all you got to do is look at that graph to generate a lot of panic in your life, because whether we lose, aerosol masking, whether we do a quick jump in temperatures due to loss of global dimming or not, whether that's, turns out to be a thing or not, the heat that is stored in the oceans is phenomenal. So let's move on. I got a couple other things to cover. This is out of Ohio, and these are people who are protesting. They want, hold on, they want to open up. They're protesting in Ohio, and they're protesting against the lockdowns, or the general lockdown. And I'm playing this to show you how people are feeling, on different levels around the country or around the world or around the virus situation. So we'll just play this for a little bit.
Here we go. It's a clear shot. Let's see if we can get the press on here. Okay, that's what's going on inside. They have tables that are there. Everybody's spaced out. I think they got about one per.
They are
Sorry.
very concerned about social distancing.
People, 26 years they've had to shut their business down because of what's happening.
All right, so I'm judging from that video that most of those people, that these are like libertarians or probably Republicans, probably on the right wing side, but they're like, screw this lockdown, our businesses are being destroyed. Nonetheless, that is a real sentiment. There obviously some people are like, we should just take public health seriously and just, let's just do what we got to do. But some other people are really, really pissed about losing their businesses or their life savings, or, they're upset, and rightfully so. Basil Peterson, they don't seem to be very, very intelligent. Yeah, I mean, the thing is that there's going to be more of this sentiment. And I was just having a conversation with somebody yesterday that, there's two sides of this situation. There's the side that, okay, hey, this is a serious thing. This is a real thing. This, virus is a real thing. We should just, protect people's health and not have this go out of control. And there's a lot of people who are like, well, this is impinging on my freedom, my economy, my right to move around, my, whatever, it's impinging on my rights, my human rights or my civil rights. And there's so many layers of that, because there are actually some things going on right now as far as, of course, civil liberties being stripped, or civil liberties being impinged upon, regulations being stripped, that are not cool. And we can say for certain that there are things going on that shouldn't be going on. The powers that be are taking advantage of the situation in order to enact laws or deregulate things that shouldn't be deregulated, right? So I think as this continues, you're going to see more people become very upset about these lockdowns and what the government is doing around these lockdowns. There's going to be a lot more people questioning this whole story, or questioning the need for this response. Some people might be on the side that, these people are lunatics, they're crazy, or they're stupid. There's a wide spectrum of people that are, upset about everything being closed down or locked down, even if you believe in protecting the public health, even if you believe in getting flattening the curve or getting on top of the virus. There are people that are going to be pissed. So that's going to continue to get worse and get larger. Ken Lundgren says, what kind of civil disobedience is that? They're all very nicely spaced apart. Well, I guess they're trying to they're trying, to whatever, to give some kind of like space to people in order to deal with it. No representation. Viruses don't care about liberty, stripped or otherwise. True. Roz Remen, I'm not on the spectrum. I am home. Yeah, most people are home. There's gonna be more battles, I think, around people being upset about the lockdown and what it means for them, and other people who are going to be like, "Hey, we got to take this seriously." This is going to get worse. Basil Peterson, the main reason we are locked down is our phony baloney for-profit healthcare system couldn't handle it. Well, there you go. And on another level, that's, we have this system that's set up to screw people, literally rape people of their money, and let them die if they don't have money. And that's a travesty. That's something that should be changed immediately. And we have a president who is not, most likely not going to change that situation anytime soon. And then we have a nominee for president on the Democrat side who's most likely not going to change that situation anytime soon either. So, on top of all that, you have the lovely situation of climate change. And hold on. I didn't really want to play this ad for anybody.
This was my phone before I called you.
Yeah, I don't care about you. Sorry. We're not going to listen to that. All right, anyways.
Conquer. It should.
Hold on.
Goats are conquering empty streets in a British village. What a strange picture to us humans who are used to only seeing ourselves governing the world. But as soon as we withdraw, nature quickly takes over. Like these monkeys in Thailand as well. Could the corona crisis eventually be good for the environment? Satellite images seem to prove just that. In Italy, where people have been living in lockdown for weeks, traffic has nearly stopped and nitrogen dioxide levels have clearly dropped. And another study suggests that Germany might even reach its climate goals as the corona lockdown causes the economy to produce much less CO2. Well, factories devoid of workers, thousands of flights cancelled, empty streets because people are working from home instead of driving to the office. Global economic activity has been put into an induced coma. Bad for the world economy, but from a climate perspective, the coronavirus pandemic is not entirely negative. Environmental activists might...
Not entirely negative. So, another layer of... another layer of strangeness to the situation, right? And I think people's feelings around the virus and what we're doing in response to it, reveals how difficult it would be to have this kind of response to climate change. Because the reality is that this response to the virus is exactly the kind of response that we would need to take on climate change if we were really serious about climate change. If we viewed climate change as the absolute killer that we view COVID as, right? COVID-19, huge, scary thing coming to, wipe out whole communities and take everybody down and kill millions of people, right? So, but we don't see climate change as that kind of a threat. And which clearly it is. It's much more of a threat than COVID-19 would ever be. So the response to climate change should be something like what we're doing right now, if not even more. And, obviously, you see how people are upset about this response. You see how, a large part of society would just view this as insane, that we would be doing something like this. Would we ever really be able to have a coordinated response to climate change? Would we ever have an organized drawdown of our economy in order to combat climate change? It makes me wonder. It actually doesn't make me very hopeful that there would be an organized drawdown. Not that I was hopeful in the beginning. Not that I was hopeful anyways on any level. But seriously, this is, we're going to see a whole confluence of attitudes and positions kind of take shape over the next 3 months, along with the fact that we're probably going to see more warming due to loss of aerosol masking effect. We're going to see more warming due to all the the factors, all of the tipping points that are, the feedback loops that are already in progress. The reality is that we could see a very, very warm summer. Not everywhere, but in many places we could see record highs, record extreme weather events. And as all of these things start happening and people are going broke, maybe still locked down due to the virus, we have severe economic distress. This summer could get very, very interesting. Keith Hayes says not draw down, transition. But Keith, you have to draw down something. You cannot transition to, there's no way we can keep the level of consumption or the standard of living that we have. You have to draw down something. Our economy is going to have to draw down. Our GDP is going to have to draw down. We're going to have to be consuming much less. We cannot consume, even if we're not emitting the carbon that we're emitting, we cannot consume on the level that we are consuming right now. It just can't happen. It just cannot happen. We can't address climate change and consume on the level that we're doing. And so it is going to have to be a bit of a drawdown. I have to disagree with you on that. And it's going to have to be drawdown and transition. Econovirus. Who said that? E-coronavirus. Okay, there we go. This coronavirus is eco-friendly. This is a green coronavirus. The dirt poor will eat the filthy rich. Well, and then along with all of those problems that I just described is that this entire situation is hitting people, the people that are poor, the people with less, are feeling the hurt more. They're going to feel it quicker and faster. Keith Hayes says, yes, but find a nicer way to put it. I want inspiration. Drawdown isn't inspiring? I don't know. Maybe not. Maybe not to you. Rich Diana, but Kevin, 83 more million hungry mouths coming this year. Yes. Well, and by that, that's the part of the drawdown that needs to be taken very, very seriously. Just look for... there are going to be some very angry, very, most likely violent responses to everything that's going on, whether it's economic, whether it's environmental, whether it's, whatever it is, whether it's people just pissed that this is happening and they're getting the short end of the stick, There are going to be some very extreme responses to this, and just to round out my point a little more, 10 billionaires gained $51 billion this week as markets edged up from the stock crash. So while everyone else is thrown out of work, can't pay their rent, we got all these stimulus things passed, And the stock market has gone up, and 10 billionaires gained $51 billion. Unemployment rate from COVID-19 continues to soar, but the stock market is faring a bit better. The Dow Jones Industrial Average and the S&P 500 both surged by more than 12% in the week ending April 9th. Stocks made a notable jump on Thursday as the Federal Reserve announced a $2.3 trillion in loans to support the economy. The market gains led to a combined $51.3 billion boost for 10 of the world's billionaires since the market closed a week ago. I don't need to really read any more than that. But this is the thing that is the problem. The real issue here. The coronavirus pandemic could force 500 million people into poverty. Economic calamities spurred by the health crisis could erase decades of progress in raising standards of living. Economic impacts of the coronavirus pandemic sweeping the world could lead to 580 million people, 8% of humanity, being pushed into poverty and see an increase in global poverty for the first time since 1990. If you don't think that that is going to inspire some protest or some anti-establishment sentiment, I don't know what you're thinking. These findings come from a new report released by researchers at King's College, an Australian national university which looks at the impact of declines in household consumption. As the global economy comes to a standstill, stories of distress are becoming familiar in almost every country, especially in the developing world where social safety nets are thin or often missing. Over the last 3 weeks, as Nairobi's airport shut down and tourism industry effectively disappeared, Micah Oluwangu, a taxi driver in Nairobi, Kenya, his income has completely dried up, making it impossible to pay this month's rent. His landlord has been understanding. It's unclear how long such patience will last. Just imagine that experience times 500 million going on all over the developing world right now. It is deeply, deeply concerning. Again, those with little means are being left to wither on the vine, to figure it out, to ride it out, while they wait for some kind of help, or wait out this situation, to wait for an end for it. And this is going to lead to a lot more videos like you're seeing, like I just played you, of people in front of Capitol buildings saying like, what the hell is going on? What are you guys doing? We need some help. Or we need you to end this lockdown, or we need, there are people doing car strikes. McDonald's workers are striking, closing down drive-throughs, saying we need at least some masks, or we need some kind of help, guys. There are people in cars doing rent strikes. There are people in cars doing strikes to let prisoners out of prison because they have very little defense against the virus. So prisons are breeding grounds for the virus. And, prisoners are going to be the last to be helped. The situation is escalating, not de-escalating. Not de-escalating anytime soon. Thank you for the super chat, Natural Progressive. I appreciate it. Donating a couple dollars of my stimulus to you. Thank you. I don't mind the lockdown if it helps the environment. I agree with you. Happy Wanderer, thank you for the super chat. Stimulus sharing. Sharing is caring. Thank you so much, you guys. Thank you, Happy Wanderer and Natural Progressive. Thank you guys for tuning in. I appreciate you. I have reached the end of my time. Judy Truitt says these libertarian protests must have been organized to occur simultaneously. Well, yeah, they're being organized. I'm sure you're going to see all kinds of protests: libertarian, progressive. Just people out in the streets because they're pissed off and they don't have any money or food. You know, it's going to come from all sides. Yeah, Francis Madigan, I know. Yeah, Canada has been dealing with this in a much better way. $2,000 a month of free healthcare in Canada. And we're not getting, we're being told to go apply for unemployment or apply for small business loans or, go sign up for Obamacare or whatever. So, Natural Progressive is on tonight. So, guys, go check out Natural Progressive. Appreciate you guys. I will see you all back here tomorrow at the same bat time. Thank you for your eyes, your ears, and your conscience. Thank you again for your support. To everybody who has supported the channel financially over the last couple of weeks, I really, really appreciate you. People have been very, very generous, and thank you. It really, really helps. Thank you so much. All right, guys. Peace. Until next time.